So good evening, and I hope everybody is enjoying our humble love offering to the Lord on this Christmas Eve. So we just heard from 10 passages from the Holy Bible. The very first started with a prophecy made to King David, which included King David's son Solomon, about how their family will reign forever, that their family will be on a throne forever, and that one of their descendants would rule an everlasting kingdom. And this points us to the future Messiah, this special king that we call the Messiah. Now, God's promises actually started long before this. In the Garden of Eden itself, God promised that one would come who would crush Satan's head. And then to Abraham, the forefather of the Hebrew people, God promised that through him, through his family, through his descendants, he would bless the whole world. And he made the same promise to Abraham's son Isaac and to Isaac's son Jacob. And King David and King Solomon are both descendants of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, and Jesus is a descendant of all of them. And as we move closer to the life of Jesus, these prophecies get more specific. So we saw a prophecy where it said that the Messiah would come from Bethlehem. And then another one that implied he would come from Galilee. And then we come to this, probably the oddest one for our ears, which is this prophecy about a virgin birth. And it says, "The Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel." Now, as you can probably imagine, this verse has gotten a lot of attention from skeptics and non-Christians. And one pushback they often give is that the Hebrew word here, Alma, doesn't actually mean virgin as we understand virgin, but it means a young woman. Now, I don't really find these arguments very convincing for a number of reasons. First of all, Alma actually means a sexually mature but unmarried woman. And maybe in our culture that doesn't specifically mean a virgin, but in their culture it would have been strongly implied and understood. Second of all, this word Alma appears many times in the Old Testament, and many of the times it's very clearly speaking of a virgin. And then finally, really what is the deciding factor for me is the Septuagint, which is an ancient Greek translation of what we call the Old Testament. So Greek was the common language of the day because of the influence of Alexander the Great. So some Jews, about 200 years before Jesus lived, translated what we call the Old Testament into Greek. And the word they used there, the Greek word they used in that passage, undoubtedly means virgin. So that doesn't mean that Christians came up with this later on. This was how this passage was understood at least 200 years before Christ was born. But I can understand why people get caught up in this whole virgin birth thing. So we're going to spend a little more time here, so bear with me. When I was a skeptic myself in my 20s, I read a book by the famous physicist and cosmologist, not so easy for me to say, cosmologist, I'm trying to say that, Stephen Hawking. You guys know who he is. Very famous scientist, passed away not too long ago, wrote a book called A Brief History of Time. And as I'm reading that, he explains how it's pretty much universally accepted by scientists that the universe has a beginning. And what really blew my mind is he talked about how before this beginning of the universe, there was nothing. There was literally nothing. And it wasn't just empty space. Don't just think of it as empty space, because space is something. There was just literally nothing, no thing. And then there was this creation event, and all matter and space and energy, and even, this is what blew my mind, even time came into existence at this point. And as a skeptic, I have to be honest, I felt a little unsettled by this because it sure sounded like the Bible to me. So scientists say there was literally nothing, and then there was something. Another book, Astrophysics for People in a Hurry, by Neil deGrasse Tyson. In this short little book, he lays out the whole history of the universe, and then he ends with these words. He says, "What happened before all this? What happened before the beginning? Astrophysicists have no idea. And Stephen Hawking said a very similar thing in his book. He said, you can trace the universe back to a certain point, and then science stops. You can't do any more science. You can't even say you can go farther into the past because there was no past. Time didn't even exist. There was only nothingness. Now, common sense tells us that the only thing nothing can do is nothing. Right? And common sense also tells us that everything that has a beginning has a cause. And the universe had a beginning. So obviously the big question is, well, what caused it? So science tells us that at this creation event, all matter and space came into existence. Right? So whatever caused it can't be in space. And whatever caused it cannot be made of matter. Whatever caused it must be immaterial. Also, if all energy came into existence, whatever caused it can't depend on this energy. Whatever created it must be self-sufficiently powerful, and extremely powerful for what it did. And some would say even self-existent, that it would not be dependent on anything for its existence. Then finally, they tell us that time itself came into existence. So that means whatever created time has to be timeless. It has to be outside of time. Now this sure sounds like the God of the Bible. Now here's the thing. If the self-sufficiently powerful, timeless, immaterial creator of the universe could create the universe out of nothing, creating a child in the womb of a virgin really wouldn't be a very big deal for him. As one Christian writer put it, Christians believe in the virgin birth of Jesus. Atheists believe in the virgin birth of the universe. Choose your miracle. Now, what's truly amazing here is not only that the self-sufficiently powerful, self-existent, immaterial, timeless creator of the universe, it's not just incredible that he created a child in the womb of a virgin, but that he was that child. Right? The immaterial creator, the timeless creator, the self-sufficiently powerful creator entered into his creation, not as a warrior with lightning behind him and trumpets and angels behind him, but as the weakest and most vulnerable among us. In Isaiah, we're told, the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel, which means God with us. And as Isaiah continues, things become a little clearer. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and his name shall be Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Now, 2, and probably 3 of those titles right there point towards this special child's deity. So as we celebrate Christmas this year, I want you to remember that God is with us, even in times of uncertainty. A few years ago, Pastor Tim and some people at the church got together a Point Community Church soccer team. And a lot of people on the team, we played in this local men's rec, or not men's, but local rec league. And a lot of the people on the team, like myself, hadn't played soccer since we were kids. So it wasn't pretty. I mean, we weren't winning any championships. Just to give you some examples, one player on the team had to voluntarily take himself off the team because of very unchristian-like behavior on the field all the time. Someone else, the Nikichucks were on the team. Now, they weren't married at the time. I'm not even sure if they were a couple at the time, but Whitney and Kevin were on the team. Probably 2 of the better players on the team. And one night, Kevin, I think maybe he was going to head a ball, but collided heads with someone on the other team, wound up with stitches across his eyebrow. He looked more like a boxer than a soccer player. And then my favorite is Rob Troutman was the goalie, and one night he went to punch the ball out of the air and punched instead one of our players and gave him a head concussion. So if there's anything you remember from tonight, don't mess with Rob Troutman. But Like I said, it wasn't pretty. We weren't going to win any championships. But let's imagine, just imagine for a moment, let's say one night a new player that nobody knew showed up and plays on our team, and we win the game. And more importantly, we didn't win the game. He clearly won the game for us, right? And we received the benefit of the win, but he won the game for us, and there was no doubt about that. And after the game, we're talking to this guy, and we realize he's the greatest soccer player who ever lived. And he says to us, listen, I didn't just win the game for you today. I won the whole season for you. And I'm going away for a while, and you won't see me for a while. But I want you to know I won the season for you. So even when things look really bad, because you're going to have bad games. You're not going to win every single game. But when things really look bad, you have to remember, I won it for you already. And he says, listen, there's going to be games where you're losing 20-0. And there's going to be games where you're on the ground on the field and you broke your leg. And there are going to be games where your own goalie punches you in the head. But I want you to know I won it for you. So even in those times, you need to trust me. And this is a promise God has made to us. As Christians, we are not deists. We don't believe God just created the universe and now sits back and has nothing to do with it. We don't believe that God created the universe like an engine and started it up and now it's just hands off. We believe in a God that we celebrate at Christmas because he entered into his creation. He entered to let us know that he is with us. About 2,000 years ago, the Lord gave us a sign. A virgin gave birth to a son and laid him in a manger, and that sign is God with us. And this isn't a legend that developed centuries later. The New Testament is easily the most well-preserved document from the ancient world, literally thousands more copies than any other ancient writing. And even non-Christian scholars, along with Christian scholars, agree that it was written during the lifetime of those who would have known Jesus. So this would include his disciples. This would include Mary, his mother. So 2,000 years, the Lord gave us a sign. A virgin gave birth to a son, laid him in a manger, and that son is God with us. So I want you to know that if you are separated from loved ones, whether it's due to COVID or conflict within your family, or if you're separated from loved ones due to death or distance, God is with you. And I want you to know that if you are overwhelmed, if you are stressed out, if you are burned out, God is with you. And I want you to know that if you feel a lot of fear about the uncertainty of the future, God is with you. Because what this child in the manger means is that God has not abandoned us. Listen, as human beings, we've given God a lot of reasons to just wash his hands of his creation and want to have nothing more to do with it. But at Christmas, we celebrate that we worship a God who doesn't send off judgment from far off in the heavens, but he actually came down into the blood, sweat, and tears to let us know that he is with us. Right? The self-existent, timeless, all-powerful creator of the universe came down into the blood, sweat, and tears to let us know that he is with us. And he wept over dead friends. He wept over the hardness of people's hearts. He was spit on. He was hated for no reason. He was lied about, maligned, slandered. He was betrayed by his best friends. And ultimately, he was tried unjustly, beaten, and executed. But then he gave us another sign. 3 days later, he rose again to let us know that he won it all for us. So this means no matter what you're going through, even if you have no idea why you're going through it, or even if you have no idea what is going to happen, this means that you can look at these signs and know God is with you. So really the question is will you trust him? About 2,000 years ago, God gave us a sign. A virgin gave birth to a son, and she laid that son in a manger. And this son is God with us. So I hope you all have a Merry Christmas. I'm going to ask you right now. I know I said earlier this wasn't a time of somber it's Christmas Eve. Thank you. But I'm not saying do it somberly, but let's take a moment of silence. You can use it for reflection, you can use it for prayer, and just go to the Lord. Maybe thank Him for what He did, maybe ask Him to help you trust Him more. So we're just going to take a moment of silence, and then Roger's going to come back up and continue to lead us in celebration.